haven't shared before. A little backstory before I begin. This had occurred in June of 2017, which would have made me 22 at the time, and had just received a job at a place that produces parts for the F-22 Raptor, Glock, and some other mundane things. I had to pass several federal background checks, and go through an extensive interview process before being offered the job. I had just welcomed my son into the world in February of that year, so life was looking great at the time. I have never shared this story with anyone, and have also questioned the events of that night myself due to me being an analytical thinker, but what happened cannot be explained, at least in my mind. Now to the story. The day had gone off without a hitch, just like any other ordinary summer day, but upon nightfall things started to take a turn. The house my fiancé and I were staying in at the time had a good-sized window in the front of the house which was connected to our living room. I was laying on the couch because my fiancé and son had gone to sleep at the time, and all the lights were off throughout the house other than the TV. This is when I noticed strange green lights, which I can only describe as looking like laser pointers, that began to dart back and forth across the wall and ceiling. Logical thinking told me someone was obviously messing around for laughs, so I proceeded to shut the curtains and continue watching TV. This had no impact on the lights, which honestly were starting to give me an uneasy feeling. I turned the TV off, and while sitting in darkness watched these lights trace back and forth across the walls, ceiling, and floor with no inexplicable source. I started to investigate by looking out the windows throughout the house, and wasn't able to find a cause, until I seen a figure standing in the backyard. I live in a suburban neighborhood, so strangers and things of the sort are not commonplace here. I could not make out facial features or anything of the sort, but it appeared to be human. This figure was observed through the window that overlooked the backyard, so I proceeded to look out the front window, and seen another similar figure through the front window, that was crouched down behind a rose bush we had in the front yard. Seeing these two figures, mixed with the unexplained light, gave me a very uneasy feeling, and might I remind you, I was the proud father of a newborn at the time, so was also very protective. I immediately ran into the bedroom to wake my fiancée, and told her there were strangers outside, and to go into the bathroom and lock the door, while I went to get the handgun that was kept in the safe. After retrieving the firearm I peered back out the windows and both figures were clearly still there, but had advanced on the house. This is where things start to get weird. After I had checked on my son and fiancé, I went back to observe the figures, and they were gone. I remember being really on edge, and highly agitated. Once things settled down for the most part, we decided to try and get some sleep, but before I can fall asleep, now I don't know exactly what happened, but I cannot explain it. These creatures came into the room, and started to initiate some sort of medical test. These beings or creatures were no more than 4 foot tall, and I remember the most important detail was that one of them was named the doctor. He seemed to be the one in charge, and I also remember very clearly that it was somehow instructed to us to not look at them directly. It was as if you could only see them through your peripheral vision. Now once this had occurred, I remember finally dozing off, and waking the next morning and believing I had just had the strangest dream ever. I asked my fiancée if I was losing my mind, and she said we shouldn't talk about it. Weird, right? Well, bits and pieces started to come back to me, so I went out and checked by the rose bush, and sure enough there was a slight indentation in the mud showing someone or something had been crouched behind it. UFO sighting, Manchester by the Sea, August 25. I was out on a beach nearby where I was staying at around 11:45 and was enjoying the cool night air and stars. My eyes picked up what appeared to be heat lightning in the distance, so I sat to watch it for a while. Then out of nowhere, a semi-bright light appeared in the night sky. At first I thought it was a plane or a helicopter as it circled roughly 5 miles from the shore. As it changed direction, the light would flicker and different colored lights flashes irregularly within it as it faded in and out of vision. I began to get quite curious about this helicopter when another one, exactly like it, appeared much closer, 2 miles off the shore tops. There was absolutely no sound coming from either of them. It began acting in a similar manner to the initial one. When it started to fly towards me, I began to get pretty freaked out and I left the beach. It was 11:58 now and I am a bit superstitious, so I was dreading what might happen at 12 o'clock. As I rounded the turn to the house I'm staying at, the church nearby struck its bell for 12 o'clock and I heard a loud scuttling, flapping sound from a bush right next to me. At this point I was sprinting inside and up the stairs to my room. I don't know if the noise I heard correlated with the UFOs or if it was just some sort of night critter, but I've never heard anything like it. It's safe to say I won't be sleeping much tonight. Tonight I seen my first UFO fleet. So I'm an avid astronomer. I love my telescope and I'm always looking up in the sky. I believe in aliens and UFOs, even seen some strange anomalies in the sky over the years in my lifetime. Usually it's one UFO here and one UFO there, hovering and or moving in weird ways and disappearing quickly. Even one shooting off into the universe at superhuman speeds. Those I was prepared for. Well, tonight this was the most insane thing I've ever seen. Here I am with a friend of mine at a restaurant and we were paying our tab to leave. Well, first I noticed something in the distance, which was a big glowing orb that was blinking all kinds of colors, slowly moving west. I point to it and say, "What the hell is that?" Even showing our server, who was dumbfounded. My friend believes in all that stuff as I do, so we are excited to find out what it was, so me and her leave to run towards the river to keep track of it before we lose it behind some trees or clouds. Well, we ended up losing it. So as we start walking back, I spot something above us that I thought was a satellite. Until we realized there were 2, then 3, then 6, then 8. Like we seriously watched a colony of UFOs heading in the same direction in the sky, maybe 15-20 of them. Probably more because there was some slight cloud cover in spots. They were all heading northwest and some were in V formations. It was intense to witness. Also glad I had someone with me to experience it. I'll probably be talking about this for the rest of my life. In the spring of 2001, in my 29th year, an orange fireball came down over the house I was in. That's what former Senior Supervisory Special Agent Frank Perry, formerly of the FBI, formerly number 2 FBI law dog in the state of North Carolina and in charge of white-collar and organized crime, and my parents' neighbor, told first my mom, and then later, myself. I never saw an orange fireball. I enjoyed a profound mystical experience. I was in touch with people online, whom I had met first through the website for the Farsight Institute, and then for whom I later built a UFO-oriented website with multiple threaded message boards. Heavy hitters knew me. I remember being passed by big, black cars on the highway with Masonic decals and being waved at by the occupants. On the day it began, when my self-consciousness sort of instantaneously merged with something that felt bigger, displacing my seat of identity, I was painting Frank's new house. He had just divorced from his wife and built a new house across the road from his parents, who were my parents' neighbors. I'm a house painter, still. I mean, I'm more than that, but only by avocation. The experience lasted 3 to 3.5 days. You know, the length of time one is up on that cross before rebirth. In the years since I confronted Frank and asked him what was all this about an orange UFO, I realized that he was giving me a low information message that, should it ever be necessary, he would confirm that I actually experienced samadhi. The implications arising from all of this are very interesting, and I'm only now at a place in my life where I'm ready to tell absolutely everything I know. This is what ufology is, in part. It's an extension of the mystery school tradition, the lodge. It's a covert way of finding people ripe for samadhi and helping them work through it with cognitive behavioral therapy, essentially. Rods? Check. I swore no oaths. I am betraying no one and nothing. Ask me anything.